Could it be the wave of the future for golf? One local club story is an interesting one. Joining us this morning to talk about it is Mark Murphy, editor of the Providence Business News. Good to see you, Mark.
Good morning, Mario.
So let's talk about this. This is Agawam Hunt is the name of the club. It's in East Providence.
Right.
And they were what, in bankruptcy? They were
in bankruptcy. They had, well, the definition of bankruptcy, right? More liabilities than assets. It had been a long time coming. They'd been running operating deficits for years, as many country clubs actually all over the country are doing, and a number in Rhode Island and in close by Massachusetts have done. Some of them have been able to be essentially bought out by single or small groups of owners, some from bankruptcy, some before they hit that. In this case, though, the solution was a little more innovative. Yep,
and this is, has to do with preserving the land and basically selling it to a conservancy, correct?
Well, what they did is that there were two groups of people who came to the rescue here. One were members who were investors, and so they had to essentially, because it was in bankruptcy, they had to, the bankruptcy court had to oversee it and to maximize the money for the creditors. And so developers came in and looked at this land. I mean, you've got 130 acres, you're in East Providence, it's cleared. I mean, this is okay. This is a green light for developing housing or, you know, whatever. Although it's a little more complicated than that. And so developers came in and looked and decided it wasn't worth it. And part of the reason is the reason the Nature Conservancy is involved, and that is the 10-mile river runs through the center of the club, and it's a very low-lying land, so it's actually pretty wet on a regular basis.
Right.
And so instead of that, what happened is that members sort of ponied up a certain amount of money, but other members and other donors, friends of the Conservancy, donated about $2 million to the Conservancy, and they then gave the money to the club, which used it to pay off, again, the creditors. And so, but what they bought was a conservation easement for actually about 2/3 of the club. They still are raising another roughly $1 million to finish buying a conservation easement for the rest of the club. So right now it's about 80 some odd acres, and it's still another 50 acres or so.
Yeah, so could this something be like a model? These clubs could look at this and say, hey, this is a way to get us out of our...
Well, it's a first in New England, the Conservancy says, although in other parts of the country they've done things like this. It could be a model. The issue, though, for the Conservancy is it's a stopover flight. It's not just sort of for the fish and the waterfowl along the river, it's also a stopover for migrating birds. And so the Conservancy, because I asked that question, you know, so, okay, are you looking at any other maps and other golf courses? And they said, we got some calls after it first happened, but we looked at it and there really aren't any other clubs at the moment that are in the same
situation.
Right, have the same kind of asset that the Conservancy is willing, interested in conserving.
Right.
So it's possible that other places it might work, but in Rhode Island it doesn't seem like it's likely, at least not at the moment.
Right, because it has to be the right situation where they find it worth.
Exactly, right. The Conservancy is, I mean, you know, it's part of a newer program of theirs where they're trying to put in urban areas, they're trying to conserve certain assets, certain environmental assets. And so again, looking in that context, they don't really see any others right at the moment. Yeah.
So Agawam, they went from the red into the green, I guess. Huh?
They did.
No pun intended. Or pun intended, I guess. Yeah. Or you can read all about it and many more stories in the Providence Business News, pbn.com. Mark Murphy, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mario.